teachers, they say they are doing fantastically. He said it's 100% efficient. Thank you, sir, for your time, and a good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I hope you're well.
I'm doing well, sir.
We thank God. We thank God. So I don't know if you've listened to the Minister for Food and Agriculture. He says the planting for food and job has been 100% effective. We've already seen results of his work. Do you agree?
Well, let me say good morning to you all, and also to thank you for giving the opportunity to speak on your esteemed network or media station. The question is this: who assesses who? Who assesses who? Who decides who is performing? Who is to do that? You know, he is the minister. He is cutting the path. He comes back to tell us that he's 100% successful. Meanwhile, he is cutting the path for people. The Planting for Food and Jobs program is for Ghanaians. The effect of it is on Ghanaians. Ghanaians are the beneficiaries, and Ghanaians are the financiers of that particular project through our taxes. So it surprises me, just like many people, that you would mark yourself and give yourself 100%. It doesn't happen anyway. I don't know why they'll be desperate to score high marks for themselves. They will not allow the people who are the financiers of the project. They will not allow the beneficiaries of their work to come out and say, look, you have done well. In this particular case, they cannot even say that they are successful. They're saying that they are 100% successful. I think that the one who is doing the work cannot assess himself like that. But you can even see that in that his speech, he came out to even admit that there are challenges. If there are challenges, how do you still proceed to score yourself 100%? If it is 100%, it means there are no challenges at all. Even if you had said that they have been successful, then we could see that there's a certain percentage of success, and then there's part of it which is accounted for by the challenges. But here is the case. He gives no room for any failure, and that it is 100%. Yet, in another vein, he says there are challenges. So it's contradictory, and I think that he is not the best person to assess himself and score himself 100%. He should let the people assess him. He should let Ghanaians assess him. He should let those who are on the street to assess him. He should let the farmers assess him.
So then perhaps the question that comes up is what the state of the planting for food and jobs currently is. What would you say when that question arises?
Well, first and foremost, the Planting for Food and Jobs program started in 2017. So you have to look at it from then to today. And for the immediate past, if you look at 2021, in 2021, around this time of the year 2021, there was no subsidized fertilizer in the market. Farmers were scrambling for fertilizer. They never got it. And on 16th July...
2021, no subsidized fertilizers at all?
No, there was subsidized fertilizer, but it was grossly inadequate. It was grossly inadequate. And I'm saying around this time, farmers were scrambling everywhere, looking everywhere for the fertilizer, even in the open market. To the extent that the minister had to come out on 16th July 2021, go and refer to front page graphic headline that the minister said the Planting for Food and Jobs program was struggling for survival. I'm giving you the dates so that you will know, if you take all these challenges put together, whether one can still conclude that the Planting for Food and Jobs program is a success, and to the extent that it is 100% successful. Then a day before, that was 2015, 15 July 2021, there was the same graphic, front page headline. It was an alert from the Minister of Agriculture that agricultural output for 2021 was likely to suffer because of drought that hit 4 regions. You can go and refer to that. We all also know that in 2021, the ministry came out to say that there was massive smuggling of fertilizer, to the extent that animals also took part in the smuggling, whereby donkeys were smuggling fertilizers out of this country on their own. They saw the donkeys, but they could not arrest them because they were not human beings. Again, in 2021, we are all aware, and it's on record, that there was spillage of the Barry Dam in Burkina Faso, and water came from that and swept away crops, livestock, and even including human beings. Then again, finally, in 2021, there was a flood in the northern part of the country, particularly in Upper West region, where new constructed roads were even washed away, which meant that crops were submerged, farmlands were submerged, crops were carried away, even roads were not spent. If you put all these things together, which was as a result of natural disaster events and then policy failures, it was going to affect agricultural output. And the 6th of July 2021, when he made that declaration that the Planting for Food and Jobs program was struggling for survival, he gave reasons that the fertilizer suppliers were not paid for 2020 supplies they did to the ministry, and government did not pay that. And because of that, they were no longer ready to continue to provide fertilizer to the ministry. These were we didn't pick them from anywhere. But then when we raised the alarm that look, given all these developments, there was going to be low output in 2021, he dismissed it. The ministry dismissed it. He dismissed it and said, we're going to have a bumper harvest. And we have been asking, where was the bumper harvest at the end of the year? Because it is something that is verifiable. When in 2019, there was a bumper harvest of rice, we saw it everywhere. The pictures came, the media brought us how rice was left to the weather, the vagaries of the weather, and so on. So, what we are spending today, the food we are eating today, is much of it is from last year. The maize, because we don't still have new maize for 2022. The rice, and so much. So, if today there's food, even before today, that is, today we are in June, and even before June, food prices were high. Then, how come that we still claim that the Plan for Food and Jobs was successful when its basic objective is to produce enough food for domestic consumption and for industrial use in this country, and also to create jobs? So the realities are there for all of us to see. I thought that for the sake of the people they are working for, they will allow those people to make the assessment rather than he himself. So the realities on the ground. You can go to the market, look at it, where you can buy the food.
So if you were to score the minister in terms of the implementation of not the minister, but the success of the Planting for Food and Jobs program, how efficient he has been in addressing the problems, the challenges that have emerged and everything, how efficient they have been at dealing with the nibbling issues, what would you give them?
I would just say that the Plan for Food and Jobs was poorly managed, because you cannot take hard-earned foreign exchange to import fertilizer into the country and allow it to be smuggled out. And then you throw your hands into the air that it is smuggled by animals, and you cannot do anything about it. I mean, that is so serious. It's poorly managed. You can't manage, it's poorly managed to the extent that the suppliers that gave you supplies, you do not pay them. And then at the time that the farmers needed the fertilizer to put on their farm, there was no fertilizer because you do not deal with your part of the contract. That cannot be said to be an efficient way of dealing things. So that aspect, it was poorly managed. You know, when you knew very well that there was going to be low output, you did nothing to make sure that we have enough to against this year. And here we are, prices are high. So the Plan for Food and Jobs program is over 90% dependent on imported inputs. That is not sustainable. For 5 years, we should have shifted or created a balance between imported fertilizer and seed, and then locally produced fertilizer and seed. At least we should have been 50-50 by now. We could have been better. That is 70 for domestic inputs and then 30 for imports. But you cannot run a program of this nature based on imports. It will certainly collapse. It's not sustainable. So it was not for nothing that as far back as 2021, government could not pay for the increasing cost of fertilizer. And that was given. Even if fertilizer prices remain what they are last year, this year, government will not still be able to increase fertilizer products, imports. It's not sustainable. So the Plan for Food and Jobs has reached its end, dead end, and it needs to be reviewed. But when we hear that it is 100% successful, then it means there's no room for review. If there's no problem, you don't fix it. You don't look for a solution. Our serious worry is about the fact that you say there's no problem at all. If there's no problem, then you don't need a solution. And a solution, to look for a solution, requires resources. So you can't go back to government and look for resources. You can't make a case to the Ghanaian people that we need so much money to put into agriculture because to fix this problem. Because there's no problem. You are saying it is 100% solved. Then what do you need again? So it undermines alternative or the search for appropriate solutions to deal with our agricultural difficulties. Meanwhile, on the ground, there is no food. People cannot afford it. Look, we can make the excuse that the cost of food today is because of high cost of transport. Look, high cost of transport has always been there in the past because our roads are not good. Two, we don't have good transport system or cargo system. But transport costs alone cannot determine price. The cost of the food itself is there. The transport cost is only adding to it. So if today we are now trying to put the high cost of food in the market to transport costs and that there's food everywhere, go back to the farm gate and ask for the price of the food there as compared to last year this time. You will see the difference without even factoring in the transport cost. I mean, in any case, at the end of the day, we must be able to feed our people and feed the industry. We also saw last year, when there was no maize up till now, for the poultry industry, it has collapsed because there was no maize, there was no soybean. How can you, in the face of all this, the poultry industry, which is collapsed, to still say that the Plan for Food and Jobs is still successful to the extent that it is 100%?
Mr. KAREWEH, so the biggest challenge you see is that there's no dynamism where the Planting for Food and Jobs perhaps would have invested into even local production of fertilizer, seeds, in case imports become expensive. You're also saying that it does not address problems as they emerge in the agriculture sector. So those are the two major problems that a review will need to address, if I get you correctly.
Yes, to the point that, you see, when the Plan for Food and Jobs started, it was to combine both organic and inorganic fertilizer. But the policy driven by the ministry was emphasizing on the inorganic fertilizer, because that's what they import into the country. That you can't give a subsidy to the same level of subsidy to inorganic fertilizer and then organic fertilizer. You see, you can't do that. And over the period, even government has on their own decided to reduce the subsidy. In 2021, the subsidy on the fertilizer was 36%. When we knew that in 2017, it was 50%. Government on its own gradually reduced the subsidy to 36% in 2021. Today, this year, 2022, the subsidy on the fertilizer is 15% from the ministry. Now, why do we give subsidy? It is to enable the farmer to be able to buy the fertilizer. Now, when fertilizer prices is tripling, then that is the point that you now reduce your subsidy. So all these policies are even, so government by today is de-investing in agriculture by their own policies. Because if you reduce subsidy, it means you are spending less in agriculture. And today, the total volume of fertilizer that is to be subsidized in 2022 is far less than in 2021. So one, volumes, you have reduced the volumes that receive the subsidy, and then two, you have also reduced the subsidy. All this in the face of rising cost of the inputs. Now, when you do this, what will you do? It will constrain the farmer from being able to buy the quantity of fertilizer that he used to buy. And then two, because there's also general cost of production. Because fertilizer is not the only cost of production. Subsidized seed is not the only thing. We have chemicals, we have land preparation, we have labor, we have other costs. All those things put together constrains the farmer from maintaining the same size of farm size as last year. So the obvious thing is that farmers are reducing their farm size this year. And secondly, they are going to have low fertilizer application on their lands. And when you have low fertilizer application, your output will be low your yield per unit will be low. And when your unit is low, coupled with the size of the farm also reduced, the overall effect will be that there will be low output at the end of 2022.
Mr. Carey, just before I let you go, for the sake of clarity, you are saying that as you speak currently, because I'm on the website of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Planting for Food and Jobs, motivating tools. The program focuses on providing 50% subsidy of the cost of inputs. Two things they mention, seeds and fertilizers. You are saying that 50% has reduced to 15% this year?
What you are reading, that is the policy intention as of 2017. And sometimes I've always been insisted that we should not be looking at policy intention. We should be looking at outcomes. It had an intention in 2017 to subsidize 50% of the fertilizer. Today, as we talk, you can verify that one. It is 15%. From 50% to 15%. So the reality is that they are subsidizing less than what is on their website. So if you are doing some research and then you are looking for data about Ghana, then you go to the website. This is what you want to get. That's 50%. When in the actual fact on the ground, it is not 50%. Today, it is 15%. The total volume of fertilizer subsidized this year is far less. And yet, on the website, it is giving information as though that is what is happening today. I mean, so the information there is different from what is on the ground. Because if you read from the media and that the minister says that it is 100% successful, If you go to the ground, you see that it is not 100% successful. With all these challenges, it cannot still be 100% successful. We also want the minister to come out because we are all interested in jobs. As I sit here as a worker, much of my salary is given to people who have not got jobs. And when the jobs are created in agriculture, it will be created in places where I come from. Because I come from the rural area. Many of us came from the rural areas. So if in 2017, the performance of the Plan for Food and Jobs, the ministry came out to say that 745,000 jobs were created. If every year we create an additional 745,000, multiply that one by 5 years, by 5, how many jobs would have been created by now? Are we talking about that? Who is telling us about the jobs that it has created this 2021? How many jobs? We have abandoned all that. Who is talking about the one village, one dam? Because it is linked to the Planting for Food and Jobs program. Before the rains, those dams had no water. And what is the use of a fridge when the fridge cannot freeze anything? So those that house, they had no water at all in the dry season. Who is talking about them today? Are they successfully implemented? Have we finished digging all the dams? Why is he not talking about it? Is it not a deficit? And then, with all these deficits, you still rate it as 100%? In any case, you and I can be talking about figures, but the man and woman on the street bothers less about those figures. And they are the reason why we are governing. They are the reason why we are public officials. They are the reason why we are giving taxpayers money to use. They are the reason why we are giving the VAs and all the largesse that go with it. So that we manage, think, be comfortable and think, implement things for their purpose, their interest. Go and ask them whether the figures mean anything to them when they cannot buy the food. Why are we not trying to solve that? I mean, that is why we always go in circles. We thought that this Planting for Food and Jobs would have learned lessons from previous, programs we have had. But it appears we have learned nothing out of it. In any case, it's even getting worse because you can't import fertilizer and allow it to be smuggled out, and you throw your hands in the air.
Well, let me end by just reading to you a message that was just sent on our Facebook board, and it's by Stephen Kobnato, who says, our Greek minister cannot watch his only claim to fame that will power his dream to become president fail before his eyes. In this regard, the program Planting for Food and Jobs cannot fail, even when in reality it has failed abysmally. That is where you must assess him from. If he admits that the program has failed, what will be his campaign message for the MPP primary, saying it's all politics? What do you say?
Well, I think that, you see, we have been saying that the Agric sector is the foundation of our economy. It's so critical. Even the minister himself said that. But you see, it is one thing we say and we do another thing. The problem is not about saying, it's not about talking. And I'm saying that how can Ghanaians live their life to only statistics? That is not what Ghanaians want. I mean, he has said it and all of us are talking about it. Meanwhile, go to the village and see how the people are suffering. They can't get the fertilizer, they can't buy it, they can't get the food. So, well, for whatever reasons he's saying it, he can say it. But the fundamental point is that you don't mark yourself. We should stop that thing. You can't write an exam and mark yourself. Otherwise, there will not be a failure. Anybody who writes an exam, who passes himself, if he's given the chance, he will give himself marks to pass. This one is not even saying that he's passing. He's saying 100%. And I'm saying it is preposterous. It cannot just happen that a program in Ghana, given the economic challenges, because agriculture is also linked to other sectors of the economy. So the success of the agricultural sector is to some extent dependent on the success of other subsectors. For instance, if you look at manufacturing, if manufacturing is not doing well, there's a limit that agriculture can grow. That is what we always find the glut and so on. It's not glut. If you can process your tomatoes, then you say it is too much. If your yam, I give you a bag full of yam, by the time you finish eating it, about half of it will get rotten because you can't preserve it. But if you can preserve this and into things that you can store, then it could even take you years. So in actual fact, manufacturing is a very integral, a necessary area to grow so that there can be forward and backwards linkages. So we should admit that agriculture on its own cannot score 100%. The planting for food and jobs has not done it, and it cannot happen. But we should not be quick to say that. Why he's saying it? He can say it, but the people on the ground will have their own verdict of the planting for food and jobs program.
Mr. KAREWEH, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Edward KAREWEH is General Secretary, General Agricultural Workers Union, GAWU. Was speaking to us and clearly gave us something to work with. 15%.